Welcome. What you are about to watch is not science fiction, and it is not folklore. It is a serious investigation into one of history's most compelling unresolved questions. The mystery of the Baalbek Trilithon, Roman stones so enormous that no ancient machine should have moved them. Across the world, in universities, research institutes, and field excavations, serious scholars are wrestling with evidence that does not fit the accepted story. Evidence that has been documented, measured, and peer-reviewed, and that still has no satisfying conventional explanation. We are going to look at that evidence carefully, without prejudice in either direction. Not dismissing what is extraordinary, but not accepting it without scrutiny either. The truth, as always, is in the details. In the Bekaa Valley of Lebanon, at a Roman temple complex called Baalbek, or Heliopolis, City of the Sun, there is a foundation platform made of the largest stone blocks ever quarried and placed in a construction project in human history. The blocks are called the Trilithon, and there are 3 of them, each measuring approximately 20 meters long, 4 meters tall, and 5 meters wide. Each block weighs somewhere between 800 and 1,000 tons. The largest surviving Roman crane, even in theory, could lift approximately 100 tons with a crew of several hundred men. The largest medieval siege machine could move less than 10 tons effectively. Even modern heavy lift equipment, the Liebherr LTM 11200-9, the most powerful mobile crane in the world, has a maximum lifting capacity of 200 tons, and that under carefully controlled conditions, with extensive ground preparation. The Baalbek Trilithon stones were quarried from a site approximately 1 kilometer away, transported across terrain that includes a steep uphill slope, and placed with sub-centimeter precision on top of a stone foundation course. How? The conventional answer is that the Romans did it, probably between the 1st century BCE and the 3rd century CE, using a combination of wooden cranes, ropes, wooden sledges, and thousands of laborers. There is no dispute that the Romans built the temples at Baalbek. The Temple of Jupiter, the Temple of Bacchus, and the Temple of Venus are recognizably Roman in their architectural style. But the Trilithon stones are part of the foundation platform, not the temples themselves, and a minority of archaeologists argue that the foundation platform may predate the Roman construction by many centuries, possibly by millennia. If the foundations were laid before the Romans arrived, then whoever placed the Trilithon stones is unknown. And if the Romans placed them, then Roman engineering was operating at a level of capability that has no parallel in any other Roman construction project anywhere in the world. In 2014, German archaeologists working at the Baalbek quarry found an unfinished monolith that had been abandoned in place. A single stone block estimated to weigh between 240 and 650 tons. It is the largest known dressed stone block in the world. It was apparently cut, shaped, and then left in the quarry, never moved. Why was it abandoned? Did the builders realize mid-project that it was too heavy to move, or did they abandon it for an entirely different reason? A change in construction plans, a political disruption, a natural disaster. The abandoned stone at Baalbek raises the question of ancient engineering capability more acutely than anything else in the archaeological record. These people were attempting to move stones that should be physically impossible to move. The evidence says they succeeded. The explanation of how remains genuinely, stubbornly out of reach. This is where our investigation begins. Stay with us, because the further we go into the evidence, the more extraordinary it becomes. The story you think you know is only the surface. Beneath it lies something far more remarkable. Let us begin. Before we go further, if you are finding this investigation compelling, please take a moment right now to like this video, drop a comment below with your thoughts, and share it with someone who loves a good historical mystery. If you are watching on YouTube, hit subscribe and tap the bell icon so you never miss a new episode. If you found us through Facebook, tap follow on our page. It takes just a few seconds, and it genuinely helps us keep making these documentaries. Now, let us get back to the investigation. Before we examine the specific evidence, we need to step back and understand the context. This case does not exist in isolation. It sits within the wider world of ancient technological anomalies, and to properly evaluate what we are looking at, we need to understand the broader picture that surrounds it. Ancient technical knowledge is remarkably vulnerable. It lives in the hands of craftsmen, in the minds of engineers, in the institutional memory of workshops and guilds. When a civilization collapses through invasion, plague, climate change, or internal conflict, that knowledge can vanish within a single generation. There is no guarantee that what is written down will be preserved, and much ancient knowledge was never written down at all. It was transmitted orally, apprentice to master, in a chain that a single catastrophe could permanently sever. This vulnerability helps explain what might otherwise seem impossible, that the ancient world possessed capabilities we did not recover for centuries or millennia. The Romans knew how to make self-healing concrete by mixing volcanic ash with seawater. When the empire fell, the recipe was forgotten. Medieval European builders worked with inferior materials for over 8,000 years before the technique was rediscovered through analysis of surviving Roman structures. The knowledge did not disappear because it was suppressed or hidden. It simply died with the people who held it. Apply this principle more broadly, and the anomalies of the ancient world become less mysterious, not in the sense of being explained, but in the sense of being plausible. If Rome could lose a concrete formula for a millennium, what else might have been lost? What might advanced cultures in earlier epochs have discovered and then lost, leaving only fragmentary traces, a strange artifact here, a suggestive diagram there, that later generations would struggle to interpret? This is the question at the heart of every anomalous discovery from the ancient world. This context matters because it tells us something important. What we are about to investigate is not an isolated curiosity. It is part of a pattern that researchers in multiple fields have been independently documenting for decades. And patterns in science demand explanation. With that foundation in place, let us now turn to the specific case at hand. Now we reach the heart of the matter. The core evidence surrounding the Baalbek Trilithon, Roman stones so enormous that no ancient machine should have moved them, is more extensive, more verified, and more troubling for conventional explanations than most people realize. Let us walk through it systematically, fact by fact, and allow the evidence to speak for itself. We are not going to speculate here. Every point that follows is documented in peer-reviewed publications, official archaeological records, or government archives that are publicly accessible. The question is not whether these facts are real. The question is what they mean. Consider this first extraordinary detail: the Temple of Jupiter at Baalbek, the largest Roman temple ever built, stands on a platform called the Great Court that includes the Trilithon, 3 massive limestone blocks forming part of the podium's western wall. These 3 stones, each weighing approximately 800-1,000 tons, are placed side by side at a height of approximately 8 meters above the ground, on top of 2 lower courses of smaller, but still enormous blocks. The Trilithon stones are approximately 6 meters long, 3 meters tall, and 6 meters wide. Even the smaller blocks in the lower courses of the platform average 50-60 tons, larger than the heaviest stones used at Stonehenge. This single data point, if taken in isolation, might be set aside. Anomalies happen, instruments malfunction, researchers make mistakes. But as we continue, you will see that this is not an isolated anomaly. It is part of a consistent and documented pattern. But that is only the beginning. Researchers also discovered the quarry from which the Baalbek stones were cut is located approximately 900 meters from the temple site. The quarry floor shows clear evidence of systematic stone cutting, channels cut around the stone blocks to free them from the bedrock, levering notches cut into the sides of partially extracted blocks, and the abandoned stone of the pregnant woman, Hajar al-Hibla in Arabic, which weighs approximately 1,000 tons and lies partly extracted from the bedrock, and completely separated at its lower face. In 2014, a German team led by G9 Abdul Masih discovered a second, even larger unfinished block in a lower quarry level, weighing an estimated 240-1, 650 tons, now designated the largest known quarried stone block in the world. Now, a skeptic might propose an alternative explanation for this, and that is entirely reasonable. We should always test alternative explanations before accepting extraordinary ones. The problem is that the alternative explanations, when examined carefully, create more problems than they solve. The mystery deepens when we examine the question of who built the foundation platform of Baalbek, as distinct from who built the Roman temples on top of it, is genuinely contested among archaeologists. The Roman temples are firmly dated to the 1st–3rd centuries CE by inscriptions, architectural style, and coin evidence. The foundation platform on which they sit shows some signs of having been modified and added to during the Roman period, but the Trilithon course specifically shows construction techniques and stylistic characteristics that some researchers argue are distinct from standard Roman stonework. Proponents of a pre-Roman date for the Trilithon include Professor H. Malik of CNRS and several Lebanese archaeologists who argue the platform's lower courses reflect an earlier, possibly Phoenician, construction phase. This is where the conventional account begins to strain. Each individual fact might be dismissed or minimized in isolation. But the cumulative weight of the evidence is another matter entirely. Perhaps most remarkable of all, the logistical challenge of moving the Trilithon stones has been the subject of multiple engineering analyses. A 2012 study by engineering professor Masoud Amin estimated that moving a single 800-ton block from the Baalbek quarry to the temple site using only ancient technology, wooden rollers, ropes, sloped ramps, and human muscle would require approximately 40,000 workers coordinated over a period of weeks. This calculation assumes perfect coordination and optimal conditions. The actual terrain between quarry and temple includes a 30-meter elevation change that would have required either a ramp, requiring even more labor to construct, or a different mechanism. No Roman-era text describes the construction techniques used at Baalbek, and no wooden construction equipment has been found at the site. Researchers who have examined this evidence have described it as genuinely difficult to explain within the accepted framework. These are not fringe commentators. They are credentialed academics publishing in mainstream journals, raising questions that the field has not yet satisfactorily answered. Then there is the matter of the Temple of Bacchus at Baalbek, built adjacent to the Temple of Jupiter in the 2nd century CE, is one of the best preserved Roman temples in the world. Its columns stand 62 feet tall, and its carved stone doorway is 42 feet high, the largest surviving Roman doorway. Despite the extraordinary scale of the above-ground temple architecture, it is entirely dwarfed by the foundation platform on which it sits. The contrast between the precisely documented Roman construction above and the inexplicably massive foundation below has led some researchers to the hypothesis that the Roman builders deliberately chose to construct their temple on an already existing massive platform, one that predated them, because the platform itself was already a sacred site whose antiquity and grandeur enhanced the prestige of the new Roman temple. What makes this particularly significant is its independence from the previous points. This is not a case of one theory requiring another. These are separate lines of evidence converging on the same uncomfortable conclusion. Adding to the enigma is this finding: the alternative and counter-hypothesis favored by mainstream classical archaeologists is that the Romans themselves were responsible for the entire Baalbek complex including the Trilithon. Under this view, Roman engineering capability has been systematically underestimated by modern observers. Proponents point to documented Roman feats of engineering, including the construction of the Pantheon Dome, the Colosseum, and the transportation of enormous Egyptian obelisks to Rome, the largest weighing approximately 500 tons. They argue that while 800-ton blocks are beyond the documented capacity of known Roman cranes, Roman engineers were creative problem solvers who may have used composite systems, multiple smaller cranes working in coordination, hydraulic assistance from water-filled bladders, or other techniques not preserved in the record, to achieve what appears to be impossible. Taken together, these facts form a pattern that cannot be explained by coincidence, misidentification, or methodological error. Each piece of evidence has been examined by skeptics. Each has been subjected to alternative explanations, and in each case, the alternative explanation falls short of accounting for everything that has been documented. We are left with a body of evidence that demands explanation and an accepted narrative that does not provide one. This is where serious inquiry begins. Now that we have established the evidence, we need to examine the theories that researchers have proposed to explain the Baalbek Trilithon, Roman stones so enormous that no ancient machine should have moved them. This is where the debate becomes most intense, because the theories reflect not just different interpretations of the same evidence, but fundamentally different assumptions about what is possible and what the past looked like. Understanding these theories is not just an academic exercise. Each one has been championed by serious researchers with genuine credentials, and each one captures something that the others miss. The truth, if it is ever established, will likely draw on elements of several. The first major explanation proposed by researchers holds that the Roman engineering maximum theory, the mainstream position, holds that the Romans built the entire Baalbek complex, including the Trilithon, using techniques beyond those documented at other Roman sites. Proponents cite the site's strategic importance as the largest Roman temple precinct in the East. It would have been a showcase for Roman engineering power in a region where competing with the long history of Mesopotamian and Phoenician construction was politically important. Critics acknowledge this logic, but note that even among Roman maximum construction achievements, the Baalbek Trilithon stones are 10-20 times heavier than anything else the Romans are documented to have moved, creating an anomalous gap in the historical record. This interpretation has significant academic support and is backed by substantial evidence, but it is not without problems. Critics point out that it requires assumptions that go beyond what the evidence strictly supports, and that key predictions of this theory have not been confirmed by subsequent research. It remains contested, and the contest is productive. A rival school of thought argues that the pre-Roman platform theory proposes that the massive foundation stones at Baalbek were laid by an earlier civilization, Phoenician, Bronze Age Levantine, or even older, and that the Romans built their temples on top of a pre-existing sacred precinct. This theory is supported by some stylistic evidence and by the lack of any Roman-era text describing the platform's construction. Roman engineers typically documented their major feats. Critics note that archaeological excavations beneath the platform have not yet reached bedrock, and that the stratigraphic relationship between the Trilithon course and the demonstrably Roman courses above it has not been definitively established. This theory is controversial, and deliberately so. Its proponents argue that the evidence demands an explanation outside the conventional framework. Critics counter that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and that the evidence presented, while suggestive, does not yet meet that standard. The debate continues in peer-reviewed literature. Perhaps the most unconventional theory suggests that the lost technology theory, popular in alternative archaeology, proposes that an ancient civilization possessed engineering technologies, sound levitation, super-strong ropes, water lifting systems, or devices not yet identified by archaeology, that allowed them to move stones of arbitrary size. This theory is unfalsifiable in its general form, but has specific versions. Some propose hydraulic lifting using water from the nearby springs. Others propose systems of wedges and counterweights operating at scales not yet attempted by experimental archaeology. While mainstream archaeology dismisses this category, Engineers who have studied the problem note that no conventional calculation successfully accounts for moving 1,000-ton blocks with ancient technology, creating at least a theoretical space for unconventional solutions. What is striking about this debate is not merely that experts disagree. That is normal and healthy in science. What is striking is the quality of the disagreement. Serious researchers working from the same body of evidence reaching genuinely different conclusions. That level of fundamental disagreement, when it persists over decades, is a signal that something important has not yet been understood. The question is not which of these theories is right. The question is whether any of them is right, or whether the truth is something that none of the current frameworks has yet been able to capture. The case surrounding the Baalbek Trilithon, Roman stones so enormous that no ancient machine should have moved them, does not rest on speculation alone. What distinguishes this investigation from pure mythology is the existence of documented, physical, verifiable evidence, material that has been examined by credentialed researchers and whose authenticity is not seriously disputed. What is disputed is its interpretation. Let us review the most significant documented evidence as objectively as possible. We are not going to cherry-pick the data that supports a preferred conclusion. We are going to lay out what exists and let you draw your own assessment. Physical evidence supporting this account includes the physical dimensions and weights of the Trilithon stones are the primary evidence. Laser scanning and geophysical surveys of the stones have established their dimensions to within centimeters, and density measurements of the local limestone allow weight estimates accurate to approximately plus or minus 10%. These measurements confirm that the stones significantly exceed the documented lifting capacity of any known Roman or pre-Roman mechanical device. The precision of the stone's placement, their surfaces are fitted to adjacent blocks within a few centimeters over lengths of 20 meters, argues that they were placed deliberately and with considerable care rather than being geological features incorporated into the building. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Investigators have documented the unfinished stones at the Baalbek quarry provide evidence that the same workshop tradition responsible for the Trilithon stones also produced even larger blocks that were never successfully moved. The abandonment of the quarry blocks is consistent with either an engineering failure, the technology to move them was not available, a resource failure, the labor or material to move them was not available, or a project cancellation. The fact that the abandoned blocks are partially shaped, not merely cut from bedrock, but also dressed on their exposed faces, indicates significant investment before abandonment, suggesting the intended project was serious and the abandonment was reluctant. Is evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. On-site analysis revealed the absence of any contemporaneous written description of the Baalbek platform's construction is a significant negative evidence point. Roman construction projects of comparable ambition, the Pantheon, the Colosseum, the Forum of Trajan, are described in Latin texts, commemorated in inscriptions, and depicted in coins. The Baalbek temples themselves are documented epigraphically, but the foundation platform's construction is never described anywhere in the classical record. This silence is consistent with either the platform being pre-Roman and therefore not something the Romans described because it predated their involvement, or with a gap in the Roman record that is not itself anomalous given how much classical literature has been lost. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Each individual piece of evidence might, in principle, be explained away. A single anomalous artifact might be misidentified. A single anomalous date might reflect contamination. A single anomalous eyewitness account might reflect misperception. The question is whether all of the evidence can be explained away, and whether the explanations required are more or less plausible than the evidence itself. When multiple independent lines of inquiry converge on the same conclusion, that convergence is the most powerful signal in empirical science. And that is exactly what we are seeing here. We have examined the history, the evidence, and the theories surrounding the Baalbek Trilithon, Roman stones so enormous that no ancient machine should have moved them. Now we need to ask the question that is sometimes overlooked in discussions of ancient mysteries. Why does this matter? What does it mean for us today? It would be easy to file this away as an interesting historical curiosity, a puzzle from a distant past with no bearing on our present lives. That would be a fundamental mistake. The questions raised by this case touch on issues that are directly relevant to who we are, where we came from, and what the human story actually looks like before the period covered by conventional history. Baalbek was designated a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1984 and is one of Lebanon's most important cultural heritage assets. The site has been affected by Lebanon's political instability. Archaeological work was suspended during the 1975–1990 civil war and has proceeded intermittently since. The German Archaeological Institute and CNRS France have conducted major research campaigns at the site since the 1990s, with the 2014 discovery of the largest known quarried stone block being the most significant recent finding. Conservation of the existing structures is a priority, with several temple columns showing structural stress from centuries of earthquake activity in the seismically active Bekaa Valley. The engineering mystery of the Baalbek stones has attracted increasing attention from professional engineers and physicists who approach the problem from a purely technical standpoint. A series of computer simulations and experimental archaeology projects conducted in the 2000 and 2010 have attempted to model different ancient transport mechanisms for large stone blocks, with results suggesting that even the best-designed ancient systems face fundamental physical constraints when applied to 1,000-ton blocks. No simulation has successfully demonstrated a plausible ancient method for moving the Trilithon stones. The problem remains open, and the Baalbek platform continues to be cited in serious engineering literature as the outstanding unsolved problem in ancient construction history, a genuine anomaly that conventional ancient engineering theory cannot account for. Furthermore, the tools available to investigate these questions are advancing rapidly. Satellite imaging, ground-penetrating radar, ancient DNA analysis, isotopic tracing, and deep-sea sonar are all providing capabilities that previous generations of researchers could only dream of. Cases that were genuinely unresolvable 10 years ago are now open to new analysis, and the findings, consistently, are expanding rather than contracting the mystery. The investigation continues. New discoveries are being made. New analyses are being published. New voices are entering the conversation from disciplines that were not previously part of the discussion. The answers, when they come, and they will come, will not merely solve a historical puzzle. They will force a fundamental revision of assumptions that underpin our entire understanding of human history and human potential. We have now walked through the complete case of the Baalbek Trilithon, Roman stones so enormous that no ancient machine should have moved them from the historical R. Echoed through the physical evidence, across the competing theories, and into the modern significance of what remains unresolved. What the story of Baalbek ultimately reveals is not just a historical puzzle. It is a mirror. It reflects our assumptions back at us, our assumptions about what ancient people were capable of, about how knowledge is gained and lost across the centuries, and about the relationship between what we know and what we merely think we know. The evidence presented in this documentary is real. The questions it raises are genuine. The debate among researchers is ongoing, and that is healthy. Science is not a set of conclusions. It is a process. And the process requires that we remain open to evidence that challenges what we thought we knew, however uncomfortable that challenge might be. If you came to this documentary as a skeptic, we hope the evidence gave you something to think about. If you came as a true believer, we hope the critical examination gave you a more nuanced picture. The truth, as always, lies in the evidence, not in what we want to be true. Thank you for watching. If this investigation sparked your curiosity, please help us reach more people. If you are watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new documentary. If you are watching on Facebook, tap the follow button on our page to stay connected. We publish new documentaries every week, covering the full range of historical mysteries that the mainstream has not yet adequately explained. Leave a comment telling us which case you want us to investigate next. The conversation continues. The investigation never ends.